What's up, you guys? My name is Grace Lauren Taylor, and you are watching episode 3 of the Trauma Dump podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Here at the Trauma Dump podcast, we seek to answer the question, what is mental health? How do I take care of my own, and how do I support others on their mental health journey? This week, we will be discussing the topic of self-harm and everything pertaining to self-harm, including my journey through my self-harm. If you or a loved one have difficulty with self-harm, or you know someone who does self-harm, help is available. We have many resources in the description of how you can help someone dealing with self-harm and how you can help yourself if you do deal with self-harm. We also have the crisis text line. The crisis text line is a confidential text line that you can text 24/7. The number is 741-741. Self-harm is not something you should ever deal with alone. There are people who want to help you. So please, if you are in a crisis, text the crisis text line at 741-741. Help is always available, and you are worth the effort it takes to get better. If you'd like to share on the show, please message us in the podcast Discord in the participants channel, along with your unique experiences, and we will match you to the right episode. I am not a licensed health professional. This podcast seeks to create community and further understanding of difficult topics. We have resources in the description, and the topics discussed here are for a mature audience, so viewer discretion is advised. If you are triggered by people talking about self-harm, this may be a difficult episode for you to watch because I will be discussing my own self-harm journey. So keep that in mind. The definition of self-harm is pretty much in the name. It's when we injure ourselves on purpose. Many people self-harm for various reasons, including trying to get the deep pain that's on the inside out. At least that's why I self-harm. For me, the physical pain is what makes the emotional pain seem more real, or it validates the emotional pain for me. There's no universal reason why people self-harm, but there are many similarities in between each of them. According to the Cleveland Clinic, self-harm is when you injure yourself on purpose. It can also be known as non-suicidal self-injury disorder, which is when people self-harm or hurt themselves in a way that won't cause death. They may injure themselves to help cope, that it might feel good to them to prove to themselves that they can tolerate pain, or to relieve the negative feelings, to direct the emotion inward. Some people self-harm to punish themselves or take out their anger on themselves because they feel they're to blame for their anger. And even sometimes people self-harm to communicate with others that they need support. It's important to recognize that people of all ages, backgrounds, races, religions can self-harm and do self-harm. It's even in some religions that you must flog yourself to repent of your sins. Self-harm is far more nuanced than what the media portrays it to be. So please, if you self-harm, don't feel shame about it. Instead, let's acknowledge the pain and get help. Because you and I deserve to be taken care of, especially when we are hurting. Self-harm is a negative coping mechanism for managing extreme pain and distress. For many, it enables a self of control and relief, but that relief and control doesn't last for very long. When my dad found out I self-harmed, he would tell me it was a short-term solution for a long-term issue, like putting a bandage on a gaping wound. My dad is dead now, and I remember when I was 12 and he found out I was hurting myself, he was very distressed. And it shook me because I thought I deserved the pain, the hurt. And he was very adamant that I didn't. That by me hurting myself, I was hurting him. And it was very distressing to see his one and only daughter, his first child, hurting themselves. And now, whenever I feel the urge to, I think about him and him comforting me and telling me it's going to be okay. According to Cerebral, many report that just delaying the urge to self-injure by several minutes can be enough to make the urge fade away. One way to increase the chances of a distraction or substitution helping calm the urge to self-injure is to match what you do with how you're feeling at the moment. Use the Coping with Thoughts of Self-Harm resource to find something right for you in the moment. So we have a resource in the description with Cerebral for coping with anger, coping with depression, coping with thoughts of suicide and how they pertain to self-harm, with different ways to cope rather than self-harm. Like, for instance, if you're angry, instead of hitting yourself or hitting something, you can hold ice. Hear me out. It actually works. Or if you seriously need to break something, break old dishes, rip up some old paper that you have lying around from school days you don't need anymore. Just rip it up. You can even start to get amped up, go on a walk. That's what really helps me, because when I am so angry, so frustrated, my adrenaline starts to spike and I need to move. So I go for a run, I lift weights, I scream in my closet, and somehow it helps. Cerebral also reports that how pain affects the self-harmer is part of the reason it can become an addiction. Part of why we self-harm can be a coping mechanism because of how your body processes the pain. When your body encounters something that can damage it, nerve endings in the affected areas send emergency signals to your brain. One of the things that your brain does in response to these signals is to release beta endorphins. These chemicals can trigger a domino effect that makes you feel better for a short time, but the effect does not last very long. It's just a very short release. Some people who self-harm do it so that they can feel better, to get that release. But that release is only going to make the problem worse. And that's how it becomes an addiction. You get addicted to those beta endorphins, and it's like some sort of high. The NHS, which is the National Healthcare System in the UK, states that there's evidence of a clear link between suicide or suicidal thoughts and people who have previously self-harmed or continue to self-harm. However, not everyone who self-harms wants to end their life. Some people describe their self-harm as a way of staying alive by responding or coping with severe emotional distress. It's important, it's crucial to find the right support or treatment to help deal with the underlying cause in a less harmful way. This is really hard for me to admit, but I've tried to commit suicide several times. And 2 of those times, I was hospitalized for several weeks against my will. I just want to say that self-harm and suicide are not the answer. I know this from personal experience. I'm really appreciative to the friends and family I had around me at those times that got me to the hospital, that got me help, and that continue to support me, because without them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this podcast. And for those of you that are struggling right now, I want you to know that from my own personal experience, you can get help. There is a way out, and you can get better. I know it's really hard. I know it's really hard. But you deserve to be here. There is no one else like you on this planet, not even if you have a twin. And there will never, ever be anyone like you on this planet. You deserve to be here. I'm glad I'm still here. In my experience, from my perspective, from what I've been told by my psychiatrists and my therapists and my partner, is that suicidal ideation is part of the human experience. The idea of death, where are we going to be after we die, that's all a part of the human experience. And just because it's part of the human experience does not mean that you should not get help. Doesn't mean that you should minimize your pain. You should get help. And for me, I take solace in knowing that I'm not alone in these feelings. Mind.org.uk is a site from the United Kingdom that has many resources for mental health related issues. They state that any difficult experience can cause someone to self-harm. According to the NHS, there are many possible causes for emotional distress. It's often a buildup of many smaller things that lead people to think about self-harm. For instance, pressures at school or work, bullying, money worries, which in this economy, yeah, that's really happening, like going on strikes, sexual, physical, or emotional abuse, bereavement or grief, homophobia, biphobia, or transphobia, a breakdown of a relationship, loss of a job, an illness or health problem, low self-esteem, an increase in stress, difficult feelings such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, anger, or numbness, being bullied, pressure at school or work. Like, let's say if you are getting more and more assignments, or midterms are coming up, or final exams are coming up if you're in school, or if you're at work, you have this big project that you have to present to your boss, or there's a lot more customers than usual, and people are yelling at you because of whatever reason, those pressures. Being in contact with the criminal justice system is one of them. And also experiencing complex mental health difficulties that can sometimes cause impulsive behavior or difficulty controlling your emotions, and is often due to past trauma. When I self-harmed, and when I do self-harm, the underlying issue is because I feel like a failure. I put an overwhelming amount of pressure on myself. And it's like nothing I ever do will be enough. I started to seriously self-harm at the age of 12 when I was getting bullied in middle school. I was at an all-girls school, and it was like 6th grade, and I was constantly being bullied, called like the teacher's pet. I was chubby. They called me obese. They called me fatty. They called me a pig. I was called ugly. And the worst thing ever was that they claimed I was faking my disability. So I am disabled. And I have seizures. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, I have severe ADHD. It's really bad. And I have other things that I'm not willing to discuss on this episode. And when I was in 6th grade, I had letters of accommodation from my doctor and also from my psychiatrist that stated I needed to be able to go to the restroom whenever I needed to. Like, they could not deny me. I was allowed to have extra time on all of my assignments, including tests. I could have someone else take my notes for me, or the teacher had to provide me with their lesson notes. And I had some other letters of accommodation. And there was a girl who always bullied me, and I never knew why. And the bullying started to increase when I was in math class, and the teacher handed me a paper with notes for the session. And I turned in one of my assignments late because the assignment was due the day prior and I didn't turn it in. And there was no late work accepted in that class. And I turned in my assignment the day after. And so she basically raised hell. She started shouting, like, it's not fair. Why does she get to turn in her assignment late? Like, she's clearly faking. Because I got really good grades in the class. I don't know if she did. I never knew. But I remember her screaming at me, and I remember her getting in my face and calling me a liar and pathetic and a loser. And she got kicked out of the class. But like, after she got kicked out, the teacher said, Grace is disabled. If you guys feel like you need extra time, talk to your parents and then get letters of accommodation and get diagnosed. Which I felt like I was being made an example of. And it was not good. And then the next day, she shoved me down a flight of stairs. And like a few weeks later, I had really long hair back then. She cut off my hair, like right here. Like, she somehow was sitting behind me. I don't remember. She cut off my hair. I was really bullied. And it made me cope by self-harming. Not made me, but I began to cope through self-harm. I started to pinch myself pretty severely at first. And when that stopped helping, I started slamming my head into a wall to the point where I scared my parents really badly, and I started getting hematomas and pretty bad bruises on my head. I felt like I was stupid, and that if I hit my head hard enough, then maybe it would start to work like everyone else's. It never did. And that hitting of my head still persists to this day. Whenever I get really, really elevated, I start to slam my head into walls or into the floor. And I've been hospitalized twice for just that. I've discovered that some people self-harm areas that are linked to their trauma. Like, if they think that they're too fat, like say their arms are too fat, they can start cutting their arms. That if they feel like they're too fat on their stomach, they start to pinch their stomach pretty hard. If they don't like their hair, start to pull it out, yank it out. I knew a few girls in high school that would literally pull out their eyelashes whenever they were extremely stressed out. I was a pretty chubby kid growing up, and I was also bullied for being chubbied. I was also bullied for being chubby, not just by peers at school, but also by my brother's friends, pretty severely by my brother's friends. And to cope with that, I stopped eating for days. And eventually, I think the longest time I didn't eat was for a week and a half. And then I started fainting pretty bad. And so all I ate was applesauce for like 2 months in seventh, eighth grade, around that time. And then I became a vegetarian because I wanted to eat again, but I didn't want to get fat. And I so desperately wanted to not be bullied. I so desperately wanted to fit in. Starving yourself is a form of self-harm. Any eating disorder in general can become a form of self-harm. Forms of self-harm not only include physically hurting yourself, but things that also mentally hurt you. For instance, calling yourself names, talking horribly about yourself, being self-deprecating, that's a form of self-harm. Many of these forms of self-harm that are more mental go unnoticed. Another form of self-harm can be blaming yourself for things that are out of your control. Drastic mood swings and lashing out. Self-sabotaging is a pretty big one for me. Withdrawing from enjoyable activities because you feel like you don't deserve it. That's a form of self-harm. And also participating in risky behavior, like drinking excessively or doing drugs. Those can be forms of self-harm. The physical signs of self-harm are more likely to be noticed. For instance, cutting, burning, hitting, scratching, pinching, flicking. Those can be more noticed, like biting yourself. It's important to note that those who experience abuse at home are more likely to self-harm than those that don't. If you know anyone that is going through a rough home life, or if you are going through a rough home life, I want you to know that self-harming is not the answer. Self-love is. I want to challenge you to be kind to yourself and to be kind to others around you, even when they are not kind to you. I'm not saying accept abuse or mistreatment. I'm saying show kindness in everything you do. I also want to say, for those of us that self-harm to bring attention to ourselves, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be noticed. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have your stress, your fear, your pain to be acknowledged. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it should be acknowledged, but there are better ways of doing so. You deserve a sympathetic response from those around you. You deserve to be taken seriously. And the best way that you can get help for things like that is to see a medical professional. I have a resource in the description for Cerebral and for BetterHelp. I think they offer some free trials that you should definitely check out. There are also many free resources depending on where you live for low-income families. For instance, for me, in the DFW, there is MetroCare. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but I know it's in the DFW and I use it. And it's a free resource. They have counseling, they have therapy, and they also give free medication for behavioral issues or mental health issues. And that's where I get all of my medication, and it's all for free because they have a governmental grant for it. If you need a safe space to discuss the difficult things that you're going through, please message our Discord. We can help. We can provide an ear to listen to the hard things that you're going through. And I want you to know that you are worth helping. In therapy, my therapist created an emergency care plan for whenever I was in extreme distress. It included all of my emergency contacts, the people that I could call if I was having a difficult time, the plan of what to do if I couldn't get to them, if they didn't answer the phone, and ways to distract myself from the pain. In our Discord, in the self-harm channel, there are other care plans that you can go through and kind of customize one for yourself. And I would really suggest you do that. The best way of healing from self-harm is seeing a mental health professional. Mental health professionals include social workers, occupational therapists, a counselor, community mental health nurses, psychiatrists, and psychologists. Now, when it comes to helping a loved one who is suffering from self-harm, above all else, be gentle, be patient, and be kind. I know how difficult it is to see someone you love hurting themselves. But bringing attention to it in a negative way, like, you shouldn't be doing that. Stop doing that. Stop hurting yourself. Like, shaming way, because that's a very shaming sort of tactic. It's going to make it worse. We need to be mindful of others' perceptions of us. We need to be mindful of others' triggers. Instead of criticizing, we should ask, how can I support you? We should be there to listen. We should be there to acknowledge the difficult things that they're going through. And you don't need to solve their problems. Don't take that burden on yourself. But be aware of what they're going through, because sometimes that's all it takes for them to want to heal. That was all it really took, was acknowledgement from others that what I was going through was difficult, and I wasn't faking my pain for me to want to get better, honestly. My advice is always to ask how you can support someone going through difficult times. You never know how showing you care can change a person's life. It's important to stay calm, stay patient with their process through their recovery. And if they relapse into self-injury, please don't give up. Please, please, please don't give up on them or take it personally, because it's not personal to you. It's personal to them. Okay? I can promise you that they feel 100 times worse. They feel like they've let you down. Okay? Show grace and mercy and forgiveness for people going through those difficult times. It's also important for you to get counseling when you're witnessing someone go through a difficult time too. I would also implore you to continue to encourage your friend, family member, someone you love that's going through hard times, to see therapy, to see a therapist, to get professional help for their issues. But we need to allow them to be in control of their own recovery. You've got this. And make sure that you don't become the therapist friend. How we can prevent from becoming the therapist friend is by also sharing with that person what we're going through. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I don't want to be a burden to them. They already have so much going on in their lives. When I was going through hard times, somehow it made me feel better when other people told me that they were also going through hard times and they sought support from me. Friendship is best when it's mutual, when it's mutually beneficial, and when it's confidential between you two. It can change someone's life to know that they have a positive impact in your life. We must share our burdens with one another. That is what community is. Calm Harm is a free app that provides support and strategies to help you resist the urge to self-harm. Tell Me, which is TELLMI, is a free app that provides resources and fully moderated community where you can share your problems. It's all confidential. And of course, we have our Discord, which is also anonymous and completely confidential. I promise, if you make the effort to get better, you will get better. Even one step in the right direction is a step away from the wrong one. If you need someone to talk to, please join our Discord. I will talk to you, okay? We have like over 160 people on there. There will be someone that will respond, that wants to get to know you and wants to help you. Today's meme of the week is from our Discord, from Gay Fucking Rat, and it's pretty OP. The girl's like, "You're pretty talented." The guy's like, "No, I'm not." The guy's like, "Oh, my brain is telling me I suck," and it's so true. Which is not true, but it's a meme. Just a quick reminder before we part, this podcast seeks to forge a strong community, so please don't hesitate to join our Discord to share with others and for podcast updates. In the Discord, we have so many different channels of discussion with various topics that include more than just trauma. We wish to create a place where you feel heard, so please join us. You are needed and appreciated, and I'd love to meet you, connect with you, and support you. You are capable of a fulfilling life in spite of your circumstances and your trauma. May you rise from the ashes and be filled with peace, love, joy, and understanding. I'll see you next Sunday in the next episode, episode 4. What will it be over? If you want a specific topic, please put it in our Discord. Also, if you'd like to subscribe, please do. It helps us out a lot. And please like this video and share it with your friends. We have a Patreon if you wish to support the podcast. Now it's time to spin the wheel. All right. Okay. We have happy, joyful, which can go to liberated or ecstatic. So, how does joyfulness impact someone with trauma? It can make us grounded. It can make us feel free. It can liberate us from the black cloud that is trauma. We deserve to feel joyfulness. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Goodbye.